Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me on the Slice of Healthcare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Today I'm here with Phil Fung, the founder and CEO at kit.com. Phil, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Jared? Thanks for having me.
Doing well. I'm excited to have you on. When I heard the announcement that Roe acquired you, I knew I had to jump on and getting you on the podcast to learn more about you and your background, the company, and the acquisition that took place. So super excited to have you on today. I think we should kick things off. If you could tell the audience a little bit about your background, and then we'll talk more about kit.com.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me on, Jared. It's a pretty cool show. Let's see. My background. So I started out my career as a software engineer. I actually worked at Facebook in the early days of Facebook. So I was one of the first 20 or so engineers that started at Facebook, and I started working on mobile apps and growth, and was responsible for a lot of the early growth in mobile apps stuff that we did at Facebook. And so I did that for about 8 years. But I really had a passion for healthcare. My parents are in different parts of lab technology in New York City, and I've been around that for a long time. And I myself have to kind of get my blood tested once in a while because of my kind of heart condition. And so I've always wondered how you can make the process of getting your blood tested a lot easier and make it more convenient. And if you did so, it would just make everyone healthier. And so that's kind of how I started out with Kit. So it's not like a new idea for myself. It's been something that I've been thinking about for like 20 years, probably. And so, yeah, that's kind of the story about myself, how I got started with Kit.
So let's dive into that a little bit more. So you have a really strong why, right? Why you wanted to start this company. What was it that kind of made you take that step forward? Because it seemed like this was a company you wanted to start for a while. And then what was it that kind of really made you, I guess, take the next step forward to actually start Kit?
Yeah, so I just wound up a previous startup called Operator, which was a pretty big app in the App Store. It was around AI chat. But we just wound that up, and I knew that this was kind of something I got pulled into. And I knew I wanted to keep going and do something that I think I really cared about the second time around. And this is something I really care about. And so I talked to my previous co-founder about what we were doing and said, I want to start doing something new. I got some initial funding and started walking around looking for a lab that I could kind of start off in. And so that's kind of how we got into things. I just want to do stuff that I'm passionate about. And, you don't have that too much time in the world. And so if there's stuff that you always want to do, might as well do it now. So that's kind of was the case of how we started, wanting to do what I kind of was passionate about, and what I saw was kind of a hole in the industry. Like there's just really no way that you can get your blood tested super easily right now. And I knew that I think everyone's life would be better if you could. So that's how we got started.
Can you talk me through a little bit about how Kit works today?
Yeah, so Kit is kind of like a complete replacement at-home medical exam, meaning that we do everything that you need to do for your yearly medical exam. So we do a blood test. That's like a full blood panel with like heart, liver, kidney, all diseases, all kind of stuff off a finger prick. Then we have a blood pressure monitor that comes in the box too. So you can take your blood pressure, kind of like how a doctor does or a nurse does in a clinic. And then finally we have a scale that allows us to assess your weight, get your BMI and so forth. And with those kind of simple components and a couple more we're adding soon, we're just able to do like a complete yearly health exam in a box, and hopefully make it a lot easier for everyone involved.
To the extent, so when let's say someone signs up for Kit, do they usually sign up in advance of when they need to take this test, or is it usually when they need to take this test like very soon, immediately? What do you see?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we're not a direct to consumer company, meaning you can't just go to kit.com and order a kit. I mean, that's not the the kind of industry that we think we do well in. I think the industry we do well in is those industries where you're already needing a ton of blood testing to be done, like life insurance, like healthcare, like just physicians' offices and so forth. So just replacing all those cases with something more convenient is just a win and an easier step to go down than going down direct to consumer. And so it's usually ordered by a doctor, whether it's your physician or your health plan, or actually by a life insurer if they're trying to do a medical exam for you. So yeah, they usually do that. They send you an email or maybe talk to you and tell you, hey, you're just gonna get a box in the mail rather than going to Quest or LabCorp, and they get that in the mail. And within probably like 1 or 2 days that they between ordering and then where we ask you to open the box within a day, and then you do it, you send it back, and you get about results in about 2 days after that.
Well, I think what's really interesting about your answer too is it makes perfect sense, right? Why Roe wanted to make this acquisition. It fits really well with what they're trying to do in the healthcare space. Can you talk a little bit more about that acquisition and really, I guess, what it means to you, what it means for the KIT team, and kind of what's to follow now that this acquisition is, I'm assuming it's 100% finalized?
Yeah,
now?
for sure. Yeah, we've pretty much finished the acquisition. I just got a brand new laptop 2 days ago, so speaking to you from that. But we're kind of moving everyone over right now. But in terms of like Row, I just find that company super exciting. I mean, they're doing so many things in so many different areas in terms of like prescriptions and like direct to consumer health goods. A lot of stuff now with fertility and male health, female health, and so forth. And so it's just a really exciting time for that company. And they kind of approached us in the beginning. So we kind of were introduced through a mutual friend, and Ro was interested in using the product. And then after we sent a sample of the product and we talked a little bit, I think by the second call or third call, they had a corp dev person jump in and say, yeah, hey, we should talk more about this company. And one thing led to another, and we kind of got acquired. So that was kind of the process. They started out as a customer and kind of became an acquirer after that. But in terms of what this means for the future of KIT, we're still an independent. We're gonna keep living as an independent subsidiary of Row, and just keep doing what we're doing, which is selling at-home health testing to healthcare companies, insurance companies, and so forth. They kind of believe in the model that we have, and that's one of the reasons we were super excited to work with them, is that they were trying to enable us and not just kind of swallow up the product and kind of like go from there. So I think one of the big things, obviously, we're just going to keep doing what you're doing. We get more resources to build a bigger lab, to build better logistics, better packaging, better software, so forth. Second thing we're doing is really we're going to start enhancing Row's internal diagnostic capability as well. So offering kits for chronic diseases like heart disease and so forth. That's something that we're definitely going to become like kind of like we are for other healthcare companies. They'd like us to just treat Row like any other healthcare company and become a client of KIT. And so that's kind of the second thing we're doing. And then I think the third thing, which I think is super interesting, is we're probably going to make like a universal API for healthcare companies where they can get both at-home kits or at-home phlebotomy or at-home care from a single API. And so we fit into this because we're KIT. We provide at-home medical kits. But in some cases, it makes sense for a nurse to come over your house. It may make sense for a phlebotomist to come to your house for more like reactive cases rather than preventative. And with their acquisition of WorkPath, which is, I think, probably one of the best mobile phlebotomy companies out there, we'll combine together and kind of give this really great service to healthcare companies. We kind of view it as kind of like an Amazon Web Services, but for healthcare. And it's really hard to get kits right. It's really hard to get mobile phlebotomy, mobile services, in-home care right. And so I think we're just providing a service, and but at the same time, keeping it kind of independent of Row is kind of the vision that I think both the Row team sees and we see as well.
Yeah, I really like the independent acquisition strategy, right? Where you acquired the company and you allowed them to remain independent. Worked really well for one of my favorite companies of all time. One of my favorite books of all time too, The Deliver in Happiness, with Tony Hsieh's company, Zappos.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because there was someone, right? Like, I never thought he would ever, when you read about it and his mindset with companies, he would ever want to get acquired, and he didn't. But Amazon allowing him to operate independently is what really allowed him to do it and continue to grow the company. Unfortunately,
unfortunately what happened to Tony,
yeah,
it's quite unfortunate, but I mean, he's definitely was one of the shining examples of like acqui-hires becoming but keeping a great business while being acquired. I think, and having your identity and kind of extending the identity of the parent company. I think that's been great. And now that we're part of Row, we want to make sure that the parent company is as successful as possible. And so, there are, we do what we can to make that possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you. I did have the chance to talk with another one of Row's acquisitions a while back, Afton Vetchery from Modern Fertility.
Yeah, sure.
Which was really cool. Haven't had the opportunity yet to speak with anyone from WorkPath, but I mean, hey, two of the companies that got acquired, that's pretty cool. And just like the conversation with Afton, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and your background. And it's definitely, I'm sure Row's super happy to have both of you as part of their family now and building those companies continuously.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, Jared. And yeah, I mean, maybe we could get Eddie to come on too, and we kind of have the trifecta of companies to talk to.
Let's do it. Yeah, it'd be great to have basically a 4-person episode, right? Get the 3 of you on here. We can kind of talk about what that means for just the future of healthcare, right? What you being kind of under one umbrella, because it's really powerful when I take a look at what this means for Row and for the future of healthcare, right? Having all of you be a part of that organization is huge.
Yeah, we're super excited by it as well. I think the parts come up to make a much better kind of sum. I don't know if you've seen Transformers at all. There was that kind of Constructicon Transformer that made the big Transformer, and I thought this is kind of like that. You kind of build a lot of small pieces that all work pretty well into one big company that works well as well. So Absolutely. We're super excited by that.
Well, I'm excited to continuously stay in touch with you and see how things are going. But thanks again so much for joining me on the Slice of Healthcare podcast. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Jared.